You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network. Den sei nach Strömjungen i Celery.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It is episode 6 of the AngryMarks Rewind podcast here at angrymarks.com, your number one source for pro wrestling, mixed martial arts, news, interviews, podcasts, and I'm going to apologize ahead of time. What we have here for you is
It's probably one of the worst pay-per-views of all time.
Let me introduce you. This is, of course, Mike Poulin, host of the AngryMarks Rewind podcast with me, Rohan Unrau. If you want to yell at me for making you listen to this, for reviewing this particular show, you can reach me on Twitter at Rohan Unrau. Mike, how you doing this week?
I'm doing good. You?
Well, it was a mixed bag of emotions this week. Let's start off with probably my favorite band of all time, Metallica, played in Winnipeg Thursday night. I was begging to go. I wanted to go. I'd seen them in like 97. And they had been back a couple times to Winnipeg, but that was before we had built our new arena. And when they announced this new tour, they were talking about the show sold out in like 45 minutes. And the day of the show, which was Thursday, I get a text message from Ticketmaster saying that they've opened up single tickets on the floor because they got their stage set up, so they're able to release some more tickets. And I was all excited, and I thought, maybe this is it. And I go to Ticketmaster, I hit the link, it said $297 a ticket.
Good God!
I immediately hit close.
Good God!
So I was kind of angry and I was bitter about that because I just got my brand new shiny credit card in the mail. So I thought, man, the adult in me could, go buy some groceries. I could pay some bills. The selfish part of me says, I need to christen this credit card somehow. I love Metallica. I don't $297 love them. After that, I was kind of depressed and I was kind of,
And then you watched the show we were going to review.
God. I did treat myself though after yesterday I did, and I purchased some new microphone equipment, which is going to be coming this week. So this should be the last episode of AngryMarks Rewind that I use this godforsaken headset. So I'm all excited. My new microphone is on the way. My mixer is on the way. So then we can do the intro music right away. I don't have to add it in post, which is kind of nice, and then it gives me a little bit more freedom, or if we want to switch up the music a little bit, we can do that. So at the height of my depression this week, I decided, hey, some professional wrestling always seems to soothe the soul. And this is what we got. And what we have for you, ladies and gentlemen, is the 1995 edition of WWF In Your House 3, which took place a lot. Four, right, sorry. 3 would have been much better. In Your House 4, which took place in my home city of Winnipeg, Manitoba, a show that I attended live.
What a show you guys got.
And this show is going to require a beer. So,
an homage to Seth Drake in some weeks.
So
on the other show I do.
I'm drinking on the air, folks.
Oh boy, we got the Sandman on the air with us.
I'm not going to waste this one. I'm not going to say what brand it is, but it rhymes with Flood Might.
Possibly James Storm.
So, like I said, I attended this show live.
Oh.
October 1995. It was a simpler time. I was 17 years old.
I was 9.
Outside of anything wrestling related, Michael, what do you know about Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada?
Not much. I know they have a hockey team.
They do.
They used to.
They do. NHL season is starting in a couple weeks, so that's going to be fun. We did take my son went to the Winnipeg Jets Fan Fest today, so that was a beacon of light in an otherwise dreary weekend.
Oh boy.
I don't recall this show being as bad as this was.
Probably because you were there live, and everything's better when you're live.
Well, and when you're paying for a ticket to attend a show, regardless of what it is, you feel the need to justify it by not critiquing it, because then you don't want to feel stupid for having spent your money on it.
Yep. Well, we're going to do plenty of critiquing in this episode.
Yep. I'm going to start off with, let's see here. Let's start off with a couple numbers here. This is from the November 20th, 1995 Observer. We're going to get the good news out of the way when it comes to the numbers, and that's the live gate. Dave wrote that the actual live gate for this In Your House in Winnipeg was almost 128,000, which was about 9,000 paid, because Canadian money is worth only 73 cents on the U.S. dollar. That's actually equivalent to a $93,000 house show. But either way, this is the best house for an In Your House show to date.
Well, I wonder how bad the other houses were.
Well, this was only the fourth In Your House event.
Oh. Syracuse, Nashville, Saginaw, stand up.
No, we'll talk about Syracuse, too.
Oh, boy, yes. That'll come later.
I'm just going to close my email so I don't get any notices here. And then on the downside, as far as the numbers go, this is the pay-per-view buy rate information. Again, Dave writes, this show's buy rate was anywhere from 0.35 to 0.52, which would make it the first WWF pay-per-view in many years not to crack 100,000 buys. Viewers' Choice was estimating, at best, a 0.4 as the absolute highest figure possible from the show, which would only be about a $630,000 gross. Most estimates for the cost of putting on a live pay-per-view are about $400,000 for those with minimal advertising. I can't imagine they spent more than $85 on advertising for this show. And equipment costs of $600,000 because of the $14.95 price tag. That's right, this pay-per-view was only $15. At the low estimate, the show may have actually been the first WWF pay-per-view to actually lose money, although it's most likely they keep expenses down on these cheaper priced pay-per-view events. So,
with this card we're about to talk about.
So not a good sign financially for WWF in 1995, and actually in North American wrestling in general.
WCW wasn't much better.
No, WCW was about to run Halloween Havoc, which didn't do a heck of a lot better.
Man versus man, monster versus machine, or machine versus machine. The giant falls off of Cobo Hall, and the Yeti!
We get giants humping Hogan, but that's for another show.
Later, maybe when we get closer to the end of October.
So the broadcast starts. There's an immediate cut to the open arena, which, by the way, they say it's a capacity crowd. There were a lot of empty chairs there, and the broadcast starts with the singing of the national anthem and
singing sensation Tony Wilson.
You want to take a drink
who
here?
I've never heard of outside of this show.
Joni Wilson is very nasally. As she's singing "Oh Canada," there's a nice video montage showing all the wonderful sights of Canada, a lot of city skylines, not including the city they were currently in.
Whoops.
So
Good job.
This show was barely advertised on TV leading up to the event, and this was a bad month for, Uncle Vinny. Within a 10-day span, both Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, who were scheduled to be on the show, were scratched, and Bill Watts, who was his number one assistant, quit on October 13th.
Oh, boy. Poor Vince.
This Joni Wilson, I did some digging. Do you know how famous Joni Wilson is? She's so famous that she doesn't even have a Wikipedia.
I was going to say, outside of this show, I don't think I've ever heard anything by her.
She does have a YouTube channel, which, as of right now, has 7 subscribers.
Yay.
The one bright spot of this show, I think, was Vince McMahon announcing. I miss him behind the mic, and it's a 3-man booth, him and JR and King.
This is actually one of the rare 3-man booths that I like, where it actually works.
And this was before Jim Ross did his sort of heel thing, the following year.
That was the next year.
At this point, they're such sneaky bastards. They hadn't even announced if Shawn Michaels was going to be on this show or not. And in typical, card subject to change thinking, they didn't announce it until after the show started, and they already had my money.
And we have Gorilla Monsoon, the president of the World Wrestling Federation, with the bad news.
Yeah, he says that because of the incident that happened in Syracuse, New York, Shawn Michaels will forfeit the Intercontinental title to Dean Douglas, who will then defend against Razor Ramon. It's one of the most difficult decisions I've ever had to make in my entire career.
Oh, is it now?
So just to keep people up to speed, on October 13th, 1995, there was a little show in Syracuse, New York, and the guys, as they are wont to do, they will go to the local drinking establishment after the matches, and a couple of young men who served this country greatly decided they were going to take up Shawn Michaels in a battle of fisticuffs. And this did not end well.
Shawn hit on one of their girls.
This did not end well for one Shawn Michaels. They talk a lot about Shawn. They don't mention the fact that 1-2-3 Kid and British Bulldog were equally involved in this, but they bring up neither of those two guys, because Shawn and Bulldog were doing house show loops, and God forbid should you report that baby faces and heels were seen together.
Kayfabe!
Kayfabe, brother. Let's see here. So we have the three-man booth. The building of this setup looked completely ghetto. They still had the boards set up. The NHL season was only 2 weeks old. On this particular night, my Winnipeg Jets were busy losing to the Anaheim Ducks 6-2, which probably still would have been far more entertaining than this show. And we get the opening match on the pay-per-view. Do we want to talk?
Making a difference.
Do we want to talk about the dark matches, or should we do that afterwards?
Afterwards.
Okay. Making a difference, Fatu, complete with his pleather coat and
What difference did he make exactly? Because this gimmick only lasted about 6 months.
Well, he got a lot of kids to say no to drugs, I'm sure.
But no one in the locker room.
Speaking of the locker room, did you notice what was embroidered on Fatu's toque? Or, sorry, skull cap or beanie if you're American. It's a toque.
I did not.
He had the letters BSK.
Ah, the Bone Street Crew.
You're aware of this gang?
Yes, that was The Undertaker, Fatu, Henry Godwin, Savio Vega, Mabel. No, Yokozuna was in there. Mm-hmm. Imagine that car ride. Who else was in there? I know.
Midian?
Who was not in the company yet.
Well, yeah, was he Phineas? No, he wasn't Phineas yet.
He was maybe still whoever he was in WCW.
Shanghai.
Shanghai Pierce.
Also later Crush would join, as well as Kama, the Supreme Fighting Machine. And
what a crew that is.
And of course Paul Bearer. And
Mr. Fuji.
I don't think I'm missing anyone. Apparently all these guys have the same tattoo as well.
Oh, God.
So Jim Ross announces that, his family, the Wild Samoans, are probably watching on pay-per-view.
I can make a Samoan stereotype joke here, but I'm not going to.
Well, just, the Wild Samoans are just that. They're wild. They're cannibals. They don't embrace technology.
They don't have TVs in Samoa.
Hello, viewer's choice. This is Sika. I want to order in your house.
Okay.
So he's taking on Hunter Hearst Helmsley, who still is in the infancy of his WWF career. He still has the harpsichord music. He's got the riding crop. He's got the polo jacket.
And an atomizer.
Right. He's
or a perfume can, as Jerry Lawler kept calling it.
He's channeling his inner Rick Martel.
Yes, he stole Rick Martel's gimmick, since Martel was not in the company anymore.
So King is bitching about why he's in Winnipeg, and when there are cities like Miami, why are we here? And trust me, Jerry, I ask that question every day.
When we could be in California or Florida.
Yeah.
Why the hell did we end up here?
So for the sake of this review, I'm just going to call him Triple H.
Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Hunter. So Fatu jumps Hunter at the beginning. Just as the match starts, you see a fan on the near side hold up a sign that reads, "You fucker." And this made TV, and they haven't edited it out.
I did not see that.
Go back, and it's probably right as soon as Fatu jumps him, within the first 10 seconds. And it's not like the far side where the hard camera, it's the near side. I guess he was holding up a sign that was supposed to be facing the ring, but on the opposite side. You know how the kids these days will put signs on both sides so they can multitask. And it just said like, "You fucker," or And then probably one of his friends' names, I don't know.
Let's hope not.
So doing some research on this Hunter Hearst Helmsley fella.
He was somebody in WCW for about a month.
He debuted in WWF in April of 1995 against Rock and Roll Buck Zumhoff.
What a
Buck Zumhoff, what a career he had. And Hunter,
such a great career that I don't remember any of it.
You know the history of Buck Zumhoff, right?
Are we talking in-ring or out?
Out.
Oh, I've heard of it.
Yeah. That's for the
Not a good man.
That's for the after dark show.
Yes.
So in that match, Hunter Hearst Helmsley won with a diamond cutter. That was his finisher. His first pinfall loss didn't happen until January '96 in a Madison Square Garden house show against, take a guess.
Shawn Michaels.
Exactly. So
of course it was.
Of course it is. He's not going to lose to anyone except his riding buddy.
Well, probably there was no one worthy of losing to him other than probably Shawn at that time. When you look at the roster in '95.
So Triple H makes the cardinal error of trying to ram Fatu's head into the turnbuckle. As a Samoan in that era, he doesn't sell it. In fact, he just gets up and breakdances.
But yet he takes a pile driver later in the match.
Right.
Fatu, I guess is your neck, but still, you're getting dropped on your head.
Fatu charges at Triple H. He gets tied up, and he does the Mick Foley hangman spot in the ropes.
Hangman's coming down from the gallows, and he's Fatu.
Hunter hits a pile driver. He still has his shirt on at this point, so he's just getting all of his gear off. Dracula was sitting in the front row, right up against the hard camera.
One of the Undertaker's druids.
He made multiple appearances on this show, and I've done some research. I'm trying to find out who this guy was. I don't know if he was a
Grandpa
local.
Munster.
My only guess is that he was probably some local radio guy. There were a couple of pro athletes in the Winnipeg area that made the hard camera for some of this show. There's a chin lock that lasted about 18 days by Triple H. Fatu countered a pile driver. He no-sells a DDT and levels Hunter with this wicked-looking sidekick. Fatu comeback. He hits a running diamond cutter, which Vince identified as some sort of bulldog.
Good job, Vince. Way to know your moves.
Fatu missed a top rope splash. Triple H hit the pedigree for the win at, 8 minutes and 6 seconds, and I need a drink.
Oh God, this was not good.
Not good, you say?
No wonder this character did not last long, and before he left, we'd end up getting like him being stalked by the Samoan gangster party. Trying to get him to reform his savage ways, I see.
So
and
Jerry...
then he comes back as a sultan.
This
boy.
This poor bugger. And you know what? He's like the Mark Henry type. It doesn't matter what they gave him. He just kept cashing those checks. So good for him.
Cashed them checks for about a decade and a half.
So Triple H interviews Hunter at the end, and...
Jerry Lawler and Triple H is interviewing himself now? I'd like to see that.
It doesn't matter. He said, King said this was the most... Okay, Jerry the King Lawler, the legend of Memphis, the King of the South, said this, Hunter Hearst Helmsley beating Fatu was the most impressive victory King has ever seen.
Bullshit.
And then Henry Godwin comes down and teases slopping him, and they run away.
And of course, that's going to set up to a slop match at the next In Your House.
Mm-hmm. Doc Hendricks is in the back interviewing British Bulldog and Jim Cornette.
It's Michael P.S. Hayes here, and I'm giving Vince McMahon my dignity.
Doc Hendricks must have been on 3 types of cocaine on the show.
Later on, he's talking to cutouts, so, you know.
Oh, we'll get to that. There's a recap. 2 weeks ago on Raw, Bulldog pinning Diesel in a tag match. Bulldog calls Winnipeg a minus 50-degree hellhole. He's not wrong.
The heel is always right.
The only thing he could have done better was trash the local sports team.
Your team's not Montreal. They've never won a Stanley Cup.
Your team's gonna move to Phoenix in a year.
A warmer climate.
So we get the hell's that? Fucking phone. Alright, we're gonna stop to read my emails here.
Oh boy. Why are you doing this show?
You can tell I'm just trying to find reasons and excuses not to go on with the rest of the show.
We're gonna be here for 3 hours, folks.
Ooh, my microphone shipped.
Goody.
You know what, and as it turns out, I'm glad that my equipment didn't come before this show, because this pay-per-view doesn't deserve to have good audio. So we'll just turn the sound off on that. I'll take another swig of beer for the working men.
Okay, Stone Cold.
Tag team title match, the Smoking Guns defending against Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid in their matching prom outfits.
One of them can be Mario Lopez, and the other one can be Elizabeth Berkley.
So they're ensconced in purple velvet. It looks like
purple velvet, not black velvet like the song.
Yeah, so Razor and the Kid have matching outfits, which means they're on the same page.
Or are they?
So they make their slow, methodical walk to the ring. I don't think Kid has ever walked that slow to a ring before. Because he has to mosey along with Razor, as he swaggers to the ring. So Jim Ross pointed out that the Kid had a broken neck earlier this year.
A broken freaking neck.
Broken freaking neck. Razor and the Kid offered to shake hands, but then do the psych job. Ross says that the key for this match is for Razor to start, and then 1-2-3 Kid starts.
Whoops.
And we get a precursor to DX with 1-2-3 Kid and Billy Gunn starting the match, and my attention was taken away by a large balding fan who came out, and he had a seat in the front row.
Oh, God.
And apparently a tiny man had taken his seat, and he was giving this guy the business. Now, as it turns out, if you're a Canadian Football League fan, that gentleman is a gentleman by the name of Chris Walby, who was an offensive lineman for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the 80s and 90s, and he's about 6'9" and probably a legit 330. So seeing him calmly escort someone who stole his seat out was the highlight of this match for me.
Yeah.
That got a huge babyface pop because everybody knew who he was. And then he proceeded.
Something interesting is happening in the fans.
And then he proceeded to sit there, right next to Dracula, with his arms crossed for the next 2 hours. So Razor whips Bart into the ropes, and Kid pulls down the rope, and Bart goes flying out because 1-2-3 Kid is a heel. Although this did get a big babyface pop.
Because Canada.
Because you're from Minnesota, which is close to Canada. So by transitive property, you're one of us. Although Billy Gunn had an affair with many Winnipeg women, so we could say that he has a connection as well.
Oh boy.
This crowd only cares about Razor.
He's an ass man. Don't. Oh wait, that's later.
The crowd only cares about Razor. He's the only star in this. There's a lot of quick tags by the challengers. They're working over Bart. They cut to the backstage of Dean Douglas taking notes, and on his chalkboard, it says in great big chalk letters, Defense versus Razor.
Ha ha ha! I'm Dean Douglas. I'm about to go back to ECW in 3 months.
Because I can't get along with the clique. Both teams make hot tags. Billy's going wild, including a stomp right to the top of Kid's nose. I'm shocked that he didn't have a busted face because of this. Billy misses
Sean.
That it's like the Shawn Michaels Hardcore Holly spot from the Rumble.
Huh.
Billy misses a charge in the corner. There's another hot tag to Razor. There's a Razor's Edge to Billy. He actually hits it. And then Kid is begging for the tag. Tag me in, Razor. I know you could have had this match beat and you could have won, but I need to feel validated. So
I need to lose the match for you.
So Razor hesitates, but then he finally gives in. Kid tries to cover Billy, and then Billy counters with a crucifix cradle and the win at 12 minutes and 46 seconds.
Sadly, this is probably the best match on the show.
I think you're right. Kid then throws a tantrum, and then he takes out both guns, and then Razor comes in to try and smooth things over. So we're going to see Razor later on in the show. Spoiler alert.
Yep.
We've got Doc Hendricks in the back, and he's standing in between two cardboard cutouts of Brett and Sean. And
oh boy.
You want to summarize how Doc was selling these cardboard cutouts to the kids?
You can have Shawn. You ladies can have Shawn Michaels in your room. You young fans can have Bret Hart in your room watching over you. That's
watching
not creepy at all.
Watching you sleep.
That does not sound creepy at all.
And they're only $25, so call the 800 number to order.
Being the kind of kid I was, that would have creeped me out.
Now, in all these network edits, they've always shown like these hotline numbers and the 800 numbers to call. I actually called this 800 number.
Oh boy, what'd you get?
It's an automated bank fraud prevention line.
Seems ironic.
Exactly, right? Time for a drink. Should be doing shots during this show.
Everybody.
Every time someone fucks up a spot, you take a shot.
Well, then we wouldn't make it to the end of the show, I don't think.
Fuck, we're not gonna make it to the end of this next match.
No.
Marty Jannetty.
1995 Marty Jannetty, who probably doesn't give a fuck anyway. I'm just here to job.
With his fluorescent garbage bag ties,
his rockers gear, because it's 1995, and we need to be reminded of that.
And he's taking on the debuting Goldust. We discussed last episode that this was in fact the debut of Goldust, not the previous show.
He had probably a dark match on the previous show.
So they do a pre-tape of Goldust making his debut, and it's very simple face paint, just this plain gold face with the two black eyes, like he got into a fight. I can't believe that this character is still over today in 2018. The only difference is that the face paint is a little bit more elaborate. There's a little bit more gig marks. The music is pretty much the same.
They call him the Natural.
Has anyone other than him and Sean had music that was the same for so long?
Road Dogg?
I don't know. I mean, if he was to do a match today, he'd probably use the same music, but that's 98.
Brett changed his eventually.
Yeah, there aren't a lot.
No. Taker, but his changed eventually too.
His changed all the time. Just different
every few years.
Just different incarnations. Radford.
He was only there for a few months. And had, I think, the headbanger music.
So Goldust comes out. He tries to jump Marty. Marty counters right away, sends him to the floor. There's an awful lot of stalling in this one. Goldust goes face to face with Dracula in the front row.
I thought I heard a small Dustin chant.
I'm sure that you probably heard some. There's probably a lot of, derogatory statements as it relates to one's lifestyle choice.
Not PG.
Goldust and Marty go face to face, Marty's probably asking Dustin if WCW is hiring.
I'm going to go there in a few years and do nothing.
I'm going to feud with Horace on Thunder.
I'm going to be buried by Chris Jericho in a Cruiserweight Battle Royal.
Goldust with a couple of really long shots with those long gold rubber dishwashing gloves he carried. Goldust gives Marty a receipt with that flipping clothesline. Oh yeah, Goldust in his debut match took a flip bump on the floor from a clothesline.
And of course, Fatu took the same bump earlier from a clothesline.
Yeah, I think there's these are guys that are trying to impress Vince.
Yep. We need to stay around here. We need to work.
Blah, 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 bunch of bullshit. Goldust goes for a backdrop. Jannetty tries a backwards roll, and I don't know who screwed this up, but Goldust collapsed, and he came up holding the back of his head legit. I don't know if he got a concussion or got hurt, but somebody fucked that up. Goldust tries again for a backdrop, and Marty hits the rocker dropper and shockingly manages not to cripple Dustin. Marty tries
But then does not go for the pin.
No, he doesn't pin him there, you know. A move that has been documented to literally cripple a man, and he didn't go for the pin here.
I'm gonna go for the high spot.
We got to do that top rope fist drop, and then Goldust counters and wins with a gourd buster at 11:15.
Oh, Goldust, everybody! You know how he got fired from WCW, right?
Sure, probably had to do something drug related.
King wasn't there? No, there was a King of the Road match with him and Barry Darsow on one of the pay-per-views.
Oh, Dustin, I thought you meant Marty.
Oh, Marty about 5 times got fired for something drug related. Yes.
Yeah. Dustin and Barry Darsow had that train wreck on the. Who would have thought that having a match on the back of a moving 18-wheeler would have been a bad idea?
Everybody, except whoever booked it.
I'm gonna take a bump for a hay bale.
I don't know if that'll be a show we'll talk about one day, because that's one I don't think I've ever wanted to watch, ever.
Well, we've done one uncensored in the past already, so it might be a while before we swing around to another one. Jerry Lawler...
None of the uncensored are particularly good, other than the one you guys did.
I think the one that we did was probably the best one, which was kind of unfortunate, because the whole point of it was to watch a train wreck.
Although, you do have a good one in, like, 99, I think.
And trying to find anything good in WCW 99 was a victory in itself, I guess.
Early 99 WCW is good. It's when you get to the middle of the year when it kind of tapers off and turns to shit.
So in 1995, the internet was still pretty much new, and Jerry Lawler, who was trying to make some really bad jokes all night, said that Marty Jannetty, he must have been downloaded tonight.
Ugh.
What the fuck does that even mean?
We know a certain diva that would be the most downloaded for a while there. That's in the company currently at this point.
So they pushed the superstar line where basically they had the winners and losers of the previous matches.
Why would you want to talk to the losers exactly?
I don't know, but you can. It's basically them talking to each other and you just listening in. And they showed the Smoking Guns and 123 Kid on the phone, and for however much a minute, you can just eavesdrop on them talking.
Sounds like fun. Sounds like a fun way to waste money.
Oh, speaking of wasting money.
in about 10 minutes of time.
Yokozuna versus King fucking Mabel.
Time to fall asleep for 5 minutes.
This was scheduled to be Undertaker versus Mabel in the semi-main, which I don't know if it would have been that much better, but it sure as God couldn't have been any worse.
Poor Taker. His 1995. Look, let's see who he wrestled. IRS, Bundy, Mabel. He wrestled some stiffs, I tell you.
Talk about a company man.
No wonder he got pissed off in 2001 and made JR Kids Vince's ass.
So the reason for this match, apparently 2 weeks ago, they beat up Undertaker, they crushed his face. He has a broken orbital bone or a broken... They just said a broken face, because that sounds far more dramatic.
They broke his face! He's...
Taker would come back at Survivor Series. What was better, Brutus Beefcake's Mega Maniacs mask or Taker's Phantom of the Opera mask?
Taker's. Brutus the fucking Barber Beefcake.
I was in Walmart today, and like I do it every time I go to Walmart, I check to see what sort of wrestling figures they have, and they have a fucking Brutus Beefcake figure, and he's got the mask!
Strutting and cutting in a Walmart near you. Just don't have him parasail.
So they're backstage. Jim Cornette cuts a promo about Gorilla Monsoon being scared. That's why he made this match. Vince says, you need to give credit to Gorilla Monsoon for making this match. So he's the fucker to blame?
You mean he couldn't find like 2 other guys to waste 5 minutes of time with on this show? You could have put Owen Hart in a match on this show. You could have put... Hell, you had Bret Hart in a dark match, although I guess he was commentating in the main event. So that's
Still,
why.
hey, if Razor can work twice, why couldn't Owen?
Owen against Savio, maybe, for like 6 or 7 minutes?
Something. Anything.
But a match that'll make you wish you were in a coma.
You know what? I don't even want to talk about this. You, go, talk.
It was a double count out, and they hugged, and it's done. It was a double count out, they hugged, and we're done.
This match hurt my feelings.
Next.
5 minutes and 12 seconds. This was like... This
and
was
it felt
almost
like 25 minutes and 12 seconds.
This was almost on the level of Bushwhackers, Sheik Volkov level bad.
Bushwhackers and Beverly Brothers from Royal Rumble 92.
Oh, that one went, 16 minutes, didn't it?
Yes, and the only highlight was Genius beating up Jameson. He hit me! He hit me hard!
Did you ever hear...
He didn't hit me. They're still breathing.
Did you ever hear the story about how they found Jameson?
I'd imagine it's pegged into a dumpster somewhere.
Apparently he was just this method actor that was doing community theater somewhere in a suburb of Hartford.
Oh.
And it was all just like, toilet humor, which was right up Vince's alley. God damn it, we gotta hire this guy.
And he can be Bobby Heenan's straight man for 5 years. And he can also get thrown off the top of the Primetime Studios when we're doing a studio audience primetime. So
they do a promo for Survivor Series. Sorry, I'm just moving on.
Yeah.
They do
Survivor Series promo featuring The Undertaker returning and Bret Hart gets a title shot.
Brought to you by Karate Fighters.
Oof, I remember Karate Fighters.
Did you have Karate Fighters?
Oh, yes.
These were a little after my time to collect, as a child I would collect action figures, and then as a teenager I'd stop, and now I'm in my 40s, I start collecting action figures again.
Just when you think you're out, they pull you back in.
I never had any Karate Fighters. I don't see the appeal of them. They're like Rock'em Sock'em robots with just flailing their legs, and maybe they'll make contact. I don't know. So they're
next thing.
They're pushing the return of The Undertaker. Ross has explained that the Survivor Series Elimination Wildcard match will feature fan favorites and rule breakers on the same side. So after
By the way, Survivor Series 95 was probably the highlight as far as pay-per-views for both companies that year ago.
I remember watching that, and that was not a bad show.
Considering what we had to deal with here and for most of the year.
So we had Vince throw to Doc Hendricks in the back, but he's in the ring.
He teleported.
And he's with Gorilla Monsoon, so the fans can personally thank Gorilla for the previous match they just saw.
Please do not throw anything in the ring.
Couldn't they oh man, they should. I was waiting for this fat bastard to be drawn and quartered. So Doc Hendricks calls out Dean Douglas, and Vince says, "What a cheap way to become Intercontinental Champion."
Not really.
In storyline,
what else can you do?
In storyline, you just said it was a good decision by Monsoon, so don't blame Douglas for it.
Inconsistent commentary, everybody.
So King says, if a champion is unable to defend, the only thing he should do is forfeit his title.
The King Jerry Lawler in 1995 is your bastion of rules, everybody.
I was hoping Max Holloway was watching this show and understood that. So Doc calls out the IC champ, Shawn Michaels, for his public shaming.
Well, at least he's not losing his smile yet.
Be a star, eh? So Vince is just calling him the most resilient champ ever. Not what you really want to push when he's forfeiting a championship.
This is probably also a way because they want to move him up to the title level. He's the most resilient champ ever, and he's got to forfeit the title. Whoops.
Yeah. If he's so resilient, why couldn't he take on one Marine?
Because there were 3 of them.
No. It was one guy. The rumors of 13 are ridiculous.
The rumors of 13 have been greatly exaggerated.
Talk about Shawn's jacket.
It looks like something a high school kid would wear in that time, I'd imagine.
Did you ever have a starter jacket?
No.
I owned a Chicago Bulls starter jacket in 1993, and There were plenty of colors on this jacket. It paled in comparison to the number of colors on Sean's Pele jacket.
Ugh.
So he suffered a concussion 8 days ago. I'm sure he's wrestled with a concussion before. Sean takes about 3 months to get into the ring, and he's looking at the belt, and he's
looking more rough than Dalton Castle at the end of his ROH title reign earlier this year.
He's looking rough. He's looking at the crowd. The crowd is saying, no, no. Dracula is completely unimpressed.
This show sucks.
Sean is stalling. Douglas is done waiting, and he snatches the belt out of his hand. Sean watches Douglas put the belt on. Sean then mopes to the back, and then probably collected his 5-figure payout for this appearance.
Tell me a lie. Oh, wait, that's a couple months later. Post-concussion syndrome, everybody.
So Dean Douglas is your new IC champ. He's immediately forced to defend against Razor Ramon.
Seems fair. Don't even give him a night to wait. Don't even save the match for Raw. Just do it here.
Nope, just do it here.
Fuck it, we're doing it live.
They do a cut back to the Superstar line where Marty, Jannetty, and Goldust are talking.
And again, why would you want to talk to the guy that just lost?
Because he's probably making a deal for some, I don't know, pharmaceuticals.
Some cocaine?
Hey, I know a guy. So this crowd is on absolute life support. Razor works over the left arm and wrist for, a long, long time. He's probably still doing it. It's rest spotomania.
Restomania's running wild, brother.
We get Douglas with a cheap shot in the corner, and Vince says, Dean put his hands on the official, which is really uncool.
Shut up, Vince.
Hey, Vince knows how to talk to the youth these days.
In a very robotic-sounding voice.
I'm shocked he didn't say it was rad.
It was rad, dude.
I would go so far as to say tubular.
Totally tubular.
Razor clotheslines Dean out of the ring. JR says that Razor gets a chance to catch his breath. He's done nothing in this match that warrants a break.
He's had him in an armbar for 10 minutes.
Razor with some fine technical stomps to the head. Razor.
Good old Greco-Roman stomps to the head. Just like the Romans would have done.
To the servial-dervial part of the back.
Okay, Gorilla.
Razor tries for the Razor's Edge right by the ropes. You'll never guess what happened then.
Does he get backdropped over?
Hey, you've seen this show before. No fair.
So have you were there live.
And you know what? For some reason, I'm sitting there. It's like, oh, this is going to be the quickest title change ever. This is going to be great. Wait, why is he on the floor? It's like, ooh, there's a hot dog. Dean is now getting the heat, and I'm using air quotes when I say that. Heat, and I say, take a drink.
The heatless.
I take a drink of beer.
There's no heat in Winnipeg. It's Canada. It's cold there.
We're scheduled to get one good, solid, warm week in August every year.
You're still waiting on it.
And then we have to protect ourselves from polar bears and flying hockey pucks. So Dean attempts something off the top rope. I don't know what it was, but Razor catches him by the neck for a choke slam.
Mm-hmm.
Douglas jumped about 3 seconds too soon. And the move is totally out of sync. And then the director shows a replay of that botched spot.
Whoa, whoops.
Way to go, Kevin.
Way to go, KD.
Highlight for Douglas is that he actually does hit a really cool-looking drop kick. It's really the only offensive move he's done at this point.
And Razor picks Douglas up and hits a back suplex, covers him with one hand, and scores the fall even though Dean Douglas's foot is outside of the ring.
And both guys' shoulders were down.
And Lawler's like, was covering who? And Douglas's foot was outside of the ring. And Vince is like, no, it wasn't. But
no,
don't listen to him.
It was oh, pardon me. That's my response to this match.
A nice hearty belch.
This is only my first beer, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, so Razor picks him up for this back suplex. He then wanders around the ring. He's like, this seems like a nice spot to deposit you. Right beside the ropes. and then they both lie there for like 3 or 4 seconds as if they're saying to each other, okay, you do it. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. You hang up. Okay, click. And then Razor just lays his right arm and elbow across Dean's stomach, and the ref counts 1, and the ref counts 2, and Dean sticks his leg in the 3rd row of the seats. That's how far his leg was outside the ring.
And this ref does not stop the count.
And the ref counts 3.
Hey, by the way, Dean, you're being buried on your way out. Just in case you didn't know.
If he wasn't buried in this one, he would have been buried not only in the Survivor Series, but he worked Ahmed. No, did he work Ahmed Johnson at the December show?
He was supposed to. And then it ended up being Buddy Landau.
Buddy Landau, right. My God.
By the way, where the hell was Howard Finkel for this show?
Anybody that had the chance not to get at the show, they should have taken it.
Or for most of this year, actually, because they had some new guy.
Bill Dunn.
No, it was not Bill Dunn.
Are you sure?
It was Manny Garcia, who was only there for about 6 months.
So not even Bill Dunn wanted to come to Canada and get paid in Canadian dollars.
They couldn't even pay Tony Chimmel to come out to Canada.
God, Bill Dunn was bad. WrestleMania 10. You remember him ring announcing now?
That was the first pay-per-view I ever saw. We might have to do that one when we get to WrestleMania season.
This is a ladder match.
I do not have the right voice for this. I am not Howard Finkel. They just found me on the street somewhere and gave me the job.
So this was a completely fucking lazy, stupid finish. Even Razor, as he's putting on the belt, he's gesturing. It's like, yeah, whatever. And the sucky part about this is that Douglas actually suffered a legit larynx injury from one of Razor's clotheslines. And he was coughing up blood after the match, and he was out of action all week. So sucks to be him.
And it's main event time.
Before that, we get Shawn Michaels on the Superstar line talking on the big red bat phone.
Because I'm sure that's what he wants to do.
He's just explaining to, all of the clique that, oh, don't worry, I'll be back, and I'll get my title back and then not lose it.
Except that it'll be a different title.
So we get the main event. Bret Hart comes out for commentary. The only real life that this crowd showed on this show.
Because he's going to get the title shot at the winner at Survivor Series.
He's getting the title shot against the title holder, not necessarily the winner. Foreshadowing. So Bret comes out to commentary. For no good reason at all, he attacks Jerry Lawler.
And they have a 5-minute chase scene because they needed to fill time.
And I was hoping that the Benny Hill music would be playing during this chase scene.
Lawler just keeps coming back out like, he won't get me now. Oh, shit, there he is.
I'll come back, and then Bret will run. That's probably the fastest Bret's ever ran.
Jerry Lawler's fault.
I don't recall Bret breaking any wind speed records in the 50-yard dash here. So Bulldog and Cornette, they come out. Bulldog was sporting a dope white leather jacket with the garbage bag ties. Doc Hendricks is attempting to get...
I'm feeling pretty funky, Doc.
Well, no, first off, he's pushing the Dudes with Attitudes t-shirt. If you want to be cool in school, wear this shirt.
Don't wear this shirt.
I would have been beaten with an inch of my life if I wore that shirt to school.
If you want to be cool, do not listen to Michael P.S. Hayes in 1995.
If you want to be cool, there's this new thing called the UFC that's just been out for a little while, so watch that instead.
And don't watch that other show because the Dungeon of Doom is running wild.
So Doc's plug for this shirt happened... It was so long that they had to stop and play Bulldog's music over a second time. And
God save the Queen.
I do recall in the arena watching, what is taking so long for Diesel to come out?
Ah, shit, Doc's stuck in a shirt.
Did he get locked in a bathroom somewhere, or is he trying to score a rat or something? I don't know.
Good old Canadian cuisine.
So Bulldog's music. I'm just gonna start belching through my words like Grandpa Rick.
Or Barney Gumble.
Diesel comes out, or he does an interview with Doc right before going through the curtain, saying that he's feeling awfully funky. Clearly, he's had some substances before this show.
Either that or he's calling out the Too Cold Scorpio. Flash!
The pyro on this show is completely ghetto.
Well, Vince couldn't afford pyro in 1995.
They get a couple little sparklers, some Roman candles, and that's about it. So, the long and the short of this match, Bulldog works
this match is long.
This match is fucking long. And it was a story of a man with one leg.
And not Zach Gowen.
Because Bulldog attempted to remove his leg throughout this match. Bulldog puts on a Boston Crab. Brett, who's on the commentary team, says, Diesel is so big he can reach the ropes. And then he's not reaching the ropes.
Thanks, Brett.
What he should say?
Insight.
What he should be saying is, if this fucker had any brains, he would just reach out and grab the ropes. But no, he has to power out of it.
He's not AT&T. He can't reach out and touch somebody. They do a spot where Bulldog drop kicks Diesel over the ropes and he bumps Brett for some reason.
He was about to run into Brett, and Brett, as a nice, kind,
no,
friendly...
you get out of here, Diesel!
He was a nice, friendly Canadian. He was preventing Diesel from falling over, and then he got pie-faced by Diesel. What a jerk!
What a jerk!
Ah, these stupid Canadians. Lousy... So they do a close-up of Dracula. Again, he's stone-faced. He's unimpressed. He's questioning his life decisions. Diesel appeared to have fallen asleep during this Boston Crab spot.
Like the crowd.
Just like the crowd. Diesel, he gets bumped to the outside. And the best worker of this match, Jim Cornette, dropping some fine-looking elbows on Diesel's knee behind.
He's probably the best worker of the night because he bumped during the Mabel Yoko match, too.
Ross then says, Diesel has had 10 knee surgeries. It's like, nice job pointing out how fragile the face of your company is.
I've had 10. Yeah, that's some. Yeah, you want your face to be relatable, but he's had 10 knee surgeries. Don't mention that.
If anything, that's an advertisement for James Andrews.
Dr. James Andrews. Fixing wrestlers. Well, I don't know if he fixes them anymore. I don't know where they go now.
Bulldog puts on a shitty-looking sharpshooter, and Brett points out how bad it looks. Diesel powered out immediately, so that was not effective at all.
They brawl on the floor, and Bulldog bumps into Brett, and Diesel shoving him doesn't anger him, but Bulldog bumping into him angers him, and we get the DQ.
At, 18 of the suckiest minutes I've ever seen live. Yeah, Bulldog rolls out to the floor. Diesel jumps off the apron to the floor to go after him, forgetting that his leg's been worked over for the last 15 minutes.
Damn it, Diesel, you sell that leg.
So he jumped from the apron to the floor, and then he collapses, and he goes, "Ah, my knee!"
God damn it, Kevin.
So Diesel and Brett start going at it. The crowd doesn't care. The company just laid one big collective turd on this crowd, and it's about 57 people come in, and they try to break them up, and it's the laziest pull-apart you've ever seen.
Bam Bam Bigelow, Henry Godwin, the Smoking Gun, Savio Vega, and
Marty
Aldo
Jannetty.
Montoya, who wasn't even booked on the show, but he was in the locker room for some reason.
Yeah, we're going to need you to come in full gear there, Peter.
What am I doing here again?
Well, you're going to wear your fluorescent yellow jockstrap, and we need you to do a meaningless run-in when you're going to be in a crowd of 25 people.
Well, damn it! At least in a few years, I'm going to be the face of ECW when they're about to go in the toilet.
Oh, the dues that man paid.
And he never made it. And he really, I don't know. He's just incredible. No wonder he has an alcohol problem.
So the subscribers of The Observer gave the poll figures for this. Thumbs up.
Why?
5.4%.
Oh.
Thumbs in the middle, 5.1%. Thumbs down, 89.4%.
Sounds about right.
I want to know who this 10.5% is that thought this was anything other than shit.
Not Dave Meltzer.
No, Dave hated this show.
Of course he did.
Observer, October 30th, 1995. Just as the cameras faded to black, signifying the end of the In Your House pay-per-view, a disgusted Vince McMahon threw his glasses and his headset on the table and just said the word, horrible.
God damn it! That's horrible!
And he started to walk back with Jim Ross while the pull-apart brawl was happening. Seconds later, as the brawl ended, Diesel, the person that McMahon had planned to build his company around 1 year earlier, was being booed out of the building, yet another in the long line of failed experiments in his quest to find a new Hulk Hogan. Easy decision to put the title back on Brett. Observer, November 6th, the following week. The WWF In Your House series has to be reevaluated. The idea that lowering the price would bring in a new audience, or for that matter, just sustain the old audience for shortened and less hyped shows, has proven to be a fallacy.
Because because nobody understands psychology. Of course, less people are going to buy the show that costs less because they know that nothing's going to happen on there.
Yeah, this was the year that WCW countered with doing 12 pay-per-views, one a month, but the cost for those were all the same. They were $29.95 across the board.
Oh, no, they didn't do 12 because they didn't do one in January and they didn't do one in August. So they did 10. And they reintroduced the Great American Bash, and they introduced Uncensored.
And they introduced World War III.
What a concept that is. A 60-man battle royal. Wow,
one of these days, Mike. You and me, and then we'll get two other sets of two podcasters. And we're gonna have a 6-way split screen, just like they did at World War III. So as far as this show goes,
what about the dark matches?
Radford lost, I think. I don't know. Bob Holly. Bret Hart teamed with someone and lost.
No, it was Yoko and Owen over Bam Bam and Sabio.
I don't even care.
Henry Godwin over Sid, and Bret fought Isaac Yankem.
That was the best match of the show, and they decided not to put it on the pay-per-view.
Because God forbid we don't have Yokozuna and Mabel and Hunter and Fatu. Fuck. We could get Bret Hart on this show in the opener for 10 minutes or 15 minutes and maybe have a good match.
It's no wonder to me why. I thought for years, why doesn't WWF ever come back to do pay-per-views or do TV shows? Or this is why, people. For garbage like this.
Well, I mean, they go to Toronto quite a bit. But you're talking Winnipeg.
Yeah. I mean, I went to the Raw the night after in Brandon, which is about a 2-hour drive, and that wasn't that much better. Although that show did have a battle royal.
Yep, a battle fucking royal.
So if you haven't seen the show, go out of your way not to see the show. In fact, if you have this on your computer, you need to
burn the file.
Melt your computer down to a liquid, and then drink it.
Like Gangrel. And I guess I got the pick for the next show, don't I?
Save us, please.
I might save you, and I'm going to give you something different because our next show takes us to Earl's Court in England because we're going to do WWE Insurrection 2001.
Oh. There's a curveball.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever seen that show.
It's a fun one.
Run me through the lineup if you have it handy, please.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I can run you through the lineup. We have Justin Credible Eddie Guerrero versus Grandmaster Sexay, who's still hanging around.
That should be good.
We have Perry Saturn, Dean Malenko, and Terry against Hardcore Crash and Molly Holly. We have... What else do we have? Shit.
You're probably right.
We have Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit.
That'll be awesome.
Jericho and Regal in a Queen's Cup match.
That'll also be fantastic, I'm sure.
Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, the Hardys, and X Factor.
3 out of 4 ain't bad.
And then the main event is The Undertaker versus Triple H and Austin in a handicap match, non-title.
All right, the 2-man power trip.
Yes. It's not a bad lineup. There's a fun segment at the beginning where they explain all the card changes because There's a segment with Regal and Vince and Linda at the beginning that's kind of fun. And then, yeah, that'll be a fun one to cover either next week or the week after Death Before Dishonor.
Yeah, you're going to an indie show next weekend, right?
Yes, Limitless Wrestling's 3rd year anniversary. I might talk a little bit about it if we do a show next week.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can hit us up when we do the Ring of Honor pay-per-view.
Yep. Or, I mean, we might be able to squeeze a show in next Sunday if you're available.
Yeah, we can take a look at that.
Yeah.
We're all over the place, ladies and gentlemen. We're taking over.
We're taking over. We just need someone to be Simon Dean.
So, that's it for me. At Rohan Unrau on Twitter. Email me at angrymarksrewind@gmail.com for show suggestions. Because God knows we're going to need help if this is the type of show that I'm going to come up with.
Oh, boy.
If this show wasn't in my home city, I probably wouldn't have ever suggested it. Because looking at this on paper, it was pure garbage.
1995 wrestling, everybody.
Any closing notes there, Mike?
No.
All right. For Mike Poulin, this is Rohan Unrau, AngryMarks Rewind, saying thanks for putting up with this one.
We bid you adieu, everybody.
Good night. Oh, pardon me.
You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.